Okay, we got a good one now. I've been waiting for this one. I love this. Imagine only cooking dinner once a week, but still eating a healthy home-cooked meal each night. That's right. Well, it's a trend you'll want to start in your neighborhood. It's called supper swapping. And here to explain is author and Houstonian Susan Thacker. So glad you're here, Susan.
Thank you.
Because Susan, this morning, with my rollers in, sitting in here, talking to a bunch of people, Susan says, so Whitney, what is it? Do you not like to cook? Do you not know how to cook? What is it? And I said, well, both. I don't really love to do it, but it's probably because I don't know how to do it so well. And then Susan said to me, I was exactly the same. But then you thought of this idea, and it's ingenious. If I could get my neighbors at Post Oak to do this, love it. Okay, so what do we do?
Okay, what I did was when my kids got to be about 4 and 5, we were eating out all the time, and it was just, they were like, no, don't put me in the car. And so I was talking to a friend on the phone, and I said, I will cook for you if you'll cook for me. And so the way we did it, for 9 years, I cooked for her on Monday and Tuesday, and I brought the meals over on Monday, and then we had leftovers on Wednesday, and she cooked for me on Thursday and Friday. But when I started researching this and writing about supper swapping, I found out that there's all kinds of ways that people across America are swapping meals. And some people do co-ops where 3 or 4 people will each make a casserole. Now my cookbook, Supper Swapping, has recipes from chefs in Houston and across the country, and they're fresh things. They're not casseroles, but they're for the beginner cook. And they're all these chefs' very easiest recipes. But
that's what I was going to ask
casseroles.
You. Do you have to do a lasagna and a casserole and one of those things, or can you actually cook for 2 or 3 people, families? We're not talking about like a bunch of single people. We're talking about your family, her family, the other neighbor's family. So ostensibly, you have to make about what? How many? 12, 15 portions?
Well, actually, the way I did it was I only swapped with one person. So I made food for her. I just doubled what I made. And I took it to her on Monday, and I gave her another one on Tuesday. And then she did that for me on Thursday and Friday. But there are people who cook in groups. There's a group of women in Colorado Springs, 12 women who make casseroles. They each make they each make one casserole, but they make 12 of them. And then they meet with their ice chests, and they swap these, so they all go home with 12 different casseroles that they freeze.
But that's what our producer in her neighborhood, which is how we kind of came up with this, her neighbors do this.
Yes.
And so, I mean, one, it's a good way to get involved in your neighborhood, and and also what I really liked about what you said in your book and on your website was that it's a way to bring your kids back to the dinner table. And dinner time is so important. It's a lost art that we no longer use as a communication tool with our kids.
That's right.
And it's invaluable. And this is a way to take you away from, oh, we have to cook, to getting your kids to sit down. And is that one of the main reasons too that you decided to do it?
I think so. I think that a lot of people who lived in the 1960s and 70s, I'm a baby boomer, can remember the day when the whole block shut down at 5:30, and I could ride my bicycle down the street and I could smell the aroma of other dinners in my friends' homes. And I really wanted that for my children. Even I could not stand to cook. I really didn't like to cook. I wasn't a very good cook, and I used to get mad at my husband when he would give me cookbooks. But
rightly
but
so,
I really,
woman. Rightly
yes,
so.
And it's just hilarious that I ended up doing a cookbook. But what happened was I started writing about this because I thought this is a great idea. It's really working for us. It makes it so that my children had a home-cooked meal Monday through Friday, and I was only cooking 1 day of the week.
Oh, that is wonderful. But okay, so if you're cooking 1 day a week, that means the other. Well, if we're not using the weekends, then the other days we're sort of at the helm. The other person's food. Their food choices are what we have to eat. So
actually, you need to pick out the recipes together.
So you do that. You kind of sit in a club and
You have to. Like I actually recently did it in a group of 2 other women on my block. And that was the best because I didn't have to drive the food, because one of them lived across the street and one of them lived 2 doors down, and they would bring me their meals in these strollers. But we only did it a few months because one of them is having a high-risk pregnancy, and the timing of it wasn't good. But it was really great because I didn't have to drive the food anywhere. But we did it where I cooked on one day, the other one cooked on another, we had leftovers, and then the 4th day the other one cooked.
But
And
you all agreed on what recipes you would be
Yes.
using, and especially, let's say
We had
that,
a
what if
meeting.
one of them has a kid that's a diabetic, or one of them doesn't eat red meat, so you kind of make some compromises there.
Well, one of them, her husband couldn't eat certain types of cheese.
Okay.
So if I was going to make enchiladas, then I would buy the type of cheese that he wanted, and I would put them on the side. One of the recipes in Supper Swapping is from Ginther House, and they have these champagne enchiladas that are to die for. And I would make those, but what's great about that is that the cheese goes on last after it comes out of the oven. So I
Okay,
would just
so you could
give
just-
them the cheese. But the other thing we did, because we were cooking for children, and I'll demo this in a minute, sometimes we would keep the ingredients separated when we delivered it, so that if the child didn't like blue
Right.
cheese on their salad, they wouldn't have to put it on it.
And then the one other thing I really wanted, before we get to the demo in the next segment, cost efficiency. I mean, is this really good for my wallet?
Yes.
It is. How so? Because we're still making a lot of food. We're buying it in bulk. Is that why?
Well, it's very economical when you're just doubling what you're making. Because, for instance, today when we make the spinach blueberry salad from the Post Oak Grill, that blueberry vinaigrette would be expensive to make for just one family, but we're going to divide that in half because it makes a good amount. And so there you save the money. But it averages about $10 a family per meal is what I have found.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
But so would I be kicked out of the group if I went to Costco and got the big
No.
plate of lasagna and that was my meal?
Oh, no, you can't do lasagna because I would not agree to that recipe.
Well, I can't be in your group then. So there, I just got kicked out.
My family doesn't like lasagna, but what we would do is we would look through all the options and we'd find something that we both liked.
Okay. So we could do it. I could be a part. You would let me, right?
But actually, you made a good point, because I know of a woman who swaps meals with someone who takes her out to dinner in exchange.
Oh,
She
now
cooks.
you're talking.
She's a widow, and he's a
widow.
widower. He
Okay.
can't cook, so he reciprocates by taking her out to dinner.
Oh, that's a good. I like that one. I'll get on that meal plan. Author Susan Thacker joins us with the answers, and Susan was so considerate to do the single girl meal, because basically I said, how much is this going to make? Which family? And she said, well, let's pretend we're both single living next door to each other, and we're meal swapping. So I like this. This is good. Okay, so we're single next door, and perfect because we have a nice low calorie meal.
Yes, okay. This is a recipe from the Post Oak Grill in Houston. It's one of my favorite things they serve there, and the only thing about making it yourself is that you don't get their wonderful biscuits with chives that they serve with the meal. But I
no,
only
you
put
didn't.
healthy things in the cookbook,
Okay,
so
good.
that didn't go. Okay, we're going to make the dressing first.
I'm gonna make
so
the dressing.
All you do is dump all the, well, let's put
what
the
do we
liquid
get?
ingredients first.
Just liquid first.
Dump,
Just kidding.
Dump everything in the blender.
We got oil. What is this?
This is-
a cup of
this is
oil?
a cup of oil.
Olive oil or what?
It's
Just
just
vegetable oil?
canola oil.
Okay,
a
then
third
what?
a cup of raspberry
Raspberry vinegar.
vinaigrette. You can get that at H-E-B or Rice Epicurean.
Okay, and then some onions.
That is one
Shallots?
One shallot.
Okay.
Okay, dump that in there.
Shallot.
1 cup of blueberries.
Ooh, I love this. Okay.
And
That's
by the way, you can substitute strawberries if the blueberries are expensive.
or raspberries?
Probably, I use strawberries on Mother's Day because the blueberries were expensive.
And can we
Okay,
can we
that's-
cut the oil? Because I wouldn't use this much. I mean, I
No.
like light oil.
Well, what you do is you just,
Put a little
just-
more vinegar in.
I wouldn't change the recipe. What I would do is just use less of it on your plate.
Okay, good call. Or dip
Okay,
dip your fork in it.
And always hold the blender down firmly, and then you just blend it.
She's so nervous because she knows what a bad cook I am. That was cute.
Looks like, I know.
Salt and sugar were the last things we dumped in there, right?
Yes, and that was 3 tablespoons of sugar and 2 teaspoons of salt. But,
Okay, we have about a minute and a half here.
okay. All right,
So
we can stop.
Okay.
Okay, so that's your dressing. Now,
Oh, this
now
looks like
you-
a smoothie.
Okay, it's really good.
Okay.
Okay, you would divide that between 2 jars, one for yourself and
Okay.
one for the other person. Now we're going to divide up. This is 8 cups of spinach, and we're going to
Basically take
divide it in half because you're making it for 2 families.
for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, not 2 families, but 2 single people.
two
And this will
single
be
people.
the equivalent of about 2 meals.
Okay,
Then
great.
we're going to garnish the tray with radicchio. Now, when I make this, I don't use the radicchio because it's just an extra cost, but it really is. That's how Post Oak Grill does it.
Does it to make
They
it
make
nice
the
and
plate
pretty.
look really beautiful.
And then how much chicken
Okay.
breast? Because this is the more expensive
Okay.
part. How much chicken breast do we need?
Well, I use the recipe calls for 3 whole chicken breasts, so
Okay.
we'll just split this in half. This will be enough for you to use over.
Is this enough for all of our staff to
Two-
eat
this
after
is
this?
enough-
Because they're
Sure.
already looking like.
But this is enough food for 2 days for a single
Yeah,
person,
so-
or 2 salads. Now,
So we wouldn't put all of it on right then, so we would wait.
Actually, if you're going to deliver this, you probably wouldn't mix it all up. You'd deliver it in separate containers.
I'm sorry, I'm listening. Yes.
So that you can put the salad dressing on each day as you eat it. Okay, and then we're going to split the blueberries. Now, see how easy this is just to split a recipe?
Yes, and to make it for 2 people. So I'm making
easy.
it, and then we put a little, what is this, gorgonzola or blue? Okay.
And if you were, and if you didn't like blue cheese or...
Then you can leave it out, and that's what you were saying earlier. You said you don't have to, you give it in sections, so if the kids don't like a certain thing, I'm not supposed to talk with my mouth full. I've been told that by my mother who watches at home. And then we got a little,
Those are toasted pecans. And one of the things I learned from the chefs when I was compiling the cookbook is that you always toast pecans. You never serve them without toasting them because it brings out the flavor.
And we like that. And you know what? That's all the time we have. I'm just going to pour a little bit on, and then we're going to chow down in the break, and everybody's going to be jealous.
Great.
All right. If you want some of those recipes, we've got them on our website, or you could go to your website, supperswapping.com, and her book. We've got some for the audience. So good for you. All right. Right